Okay, so I want you to picture a scenario for a second. It is a Tuesday night. You are at home, maybe just unwinding on the couch, and you open up a dating app on your phone.
Just a typical Tuesday.
Right.
Uh,
But this isn't just any mainstream dating app. This is a very niche community. Maybe it is for ethical non-monogamy or E&M. Maybe it's for a specific kink.
so it's a part of your life that is highly private.
Exactly.
Right.
It is completely walled off from your 9 to 5, your family, your quote-unquote normal life.
Right. It is what sociologists would actually call a backstage area. You
Right.
know you aren't performing your public persona there. You feel anonymous. You feel safe.
You are totally in the bubble. And then you swipe right or you check who viewed your profile and your stomach just drops completely through the floor.
Oh, no.
Because staring right back at you, maybe holding a glass of wine and smiling that familiar professional smile is your boss.
Wow.
Or the head of the PTA at your kid's school. Or your next-door neighbor who waves at you every single morning while walking the dog.
Yeah, that specific physical sensation, that drop in your stomach, that is what we call context collapse.
Context collapse. I mean, it sounds like a structural engineering failure.
Well, in a way, it really is. It is the flattening of multiple audiences into one single space. We all maintain these separate spheres in our lives, right?
Yeah.
Work friends, home friends, private interests.
And we rely on the walls between them just to function.
Exactly. When those walls suddenly crumble and everyone sees everything all at once, that is pure panic.
And that panic is exactly what we are digging into for this deep dive today. We have got our hands on a really fascinating stack of internal documents, emails, strategy memos, the whole back-end conversation from the executive team of a major E&M platform.
And these are dated late February 2026. So we are looking at a very recent, very real crisis management situation unfolding.
It is basically a front row seat to a high-stakes emergency meeting. We have the CEO, the COO, the head of coaching, and the marketing director all scrambling to solve this exact problem.
Right. What actually happens when a user bumps into someone they know in a space that is supposed to be a total secret?
And what makes this stack of documents so compelling to me is that it isn't just about dating apps. It is a masterclass in how to manage human behavior, how to design for safety, and honestly, how to stop a massive PR nightmare before it even starts.
Because if they get this wrong, the platform is done.
Exactly. So let's set the scene here. The catalyst for all of this isn't a data breach or a server crash. It is actually just a coffee meeting.
Right. So the CEO is having coffee with a friend who actually uses the app. And the friend starts talking about these recognition events. That is the internal term they use in the emails, by the way.
Recognition event.
Yeah. The friend mentions seeing a colleague on the platform and describes just the sheer terror that followed. And the CEO has this light bulb moment. They realize, wait a minute, this isn't a bug in the code. This is a bug in reality.
And if they don't fix it, the platform essentially isn't safe for anyone. So the mission of this deep dive is to unpack how this executive team builds a safety net for identity collision in near real time.
And the tension running through all these documents is just fascinating. How do you protect people without turning your tech company into a massive therapy clinic?
Yes. Mission creep. That is the villain of this whole story. You can see them fighting it in literally every email.
You really can.
So let's start with the CEO's diagnosis. This kicks off with an email sent on a Wednesday morning, February 25th. The subject line is serious. It says recognition events, context collapse, privacy risk, and what we build.
And the CEO doesn't just say, hey guys, this is awkward. They actually bring in a consulting psychologist to explain what is physically happening in the user's brain.
Which is such crucial context.
It is. The psychologist frames this not as social embarrassment, but as the threat response. We are talking about a biological panic mechanism here. Freeze, flight, fight, or fawn.
But why is it a threat response, though? I mean, if I see my neighbor on a knitting forum, I don't go into fight or flight. Why is this so different?
Because the stakes are existential. The CEO outlines 3 specific harms in the memo: reputation, power dynamics, and safety. And this is where the document gets really interesting because they introduce a core design principle for the company. Women are sovereign.
That phrase totally jumped off the page for me. Women are sovereign.
It is not just a marketing slogan to put on a t-shirt.
Yeah.
The CEO is making a very pragmatic business point here. Reputational harm is not distributed equally.
Right.
In our society, if a secret lifestyle is exposed, the reputational blowback often hits women much harder than men.
So logically, if the app isn't safe for women, if they don't feel sovereign over their own data and their own visibility, the entire ecosystem just collapses.
Precisely. They call the community the garden. If weeds like fear or blackmail or coercion get into the garden, the whole thing dies. The CEO specifically mentions the risk of soft blackmail.
Soft blackmail. That is a chilling term. Let's unpack that, because it sounds a lot more insidious than regular blackmail.
It really is. Hard blackmail is transactional, right? Pay me $5,000 or I tell your husband. Soft blackmail is subtle. It is entirely about leverage.
Okay, give me an example.
Imagine you match with your boss. They don't threaten you explicitly, but now every single time you are in a meeting with them, you know that they know. Maybe they ask you to work late, and you feel like you cannot say no because of that shared secret. The power dynamic shifts completely.
Wow. It is the implication of leverage. You are just trapped.
Exactly. And the CEO says this risk, the outing, the coercion, the soft blackmail, is an existential threat to the product. So the mandate is issued to the team. You have 48 hours. Come back to me with a plan.
And the first person to reply to that thread is the head of coaching. Now, if I am in this position, I'm thinking, okay, we need to educate the users.
Yeah.
Maybe we film a 10-part video series on how to manage your feelings.
But the head of coaching shuts that down immediately.
They do. And it is a very counterintuitive move. They argue that if you try to teach users too much, you are actually making it worse. Their philosophy is written in bold in the email. This is real-world identity collision. It doesn't mean E&M is failing. It means the nervous system is doing its job.
So the panic is the feature, not the bug.
The panic is the biological reality. You cannot code away the adrenaline spike of seeing your ex. So the head of coaching says, we support behavior, not process trauma.
Support behavior, not process trauma. That really feels like the bumper sticker for this entire deep dive.
It is the absolute boundary line. They are saying, look, we are an app. We are not a therapist to couch. We cannot process your childhood trauma regarding abandonment.
So instead of a heavy educational course, what do? They propose a library asset, just a simple, calm, one-page guide.
Yes, and inside this guide is something they call the 90-second protocol. Actually, read this down because it seems useful for just everyday life, not even just for a dating app.
It really is. It is designed to override the lizard brain. When you are in fight or flight, your prefrontal cortex, the logical part of your brain that makes good decisions, it essentially shuts down.
You make terrible decisions, you delete your account,
Yeah.
you send a nasty text, you just panic.
Right. So what is the protocol? How do we stop that spiral?
It is 3 simple steps. Pause, regulate, choose. That is it. You stop the physical action, you take a breath to regulate the nervous system, then and only then do you choose the least harmful action.
Least harmful action. That is such a specific phrase. It implies that there might not be a good outcome, but there is a safest one.
Right. Don't try to win the interaction. Don't try to play it cool. Just survive it with your privacy intact. And to help with that, they also include a 10-minute partner check-in script.
Because if I see my neighbor on the app, the very first thing I am going to do is text my partner in a total panic.
Exactly. And usually that text is just OMG, OMG, we are doomed. Which helps absolutely no one.
Not at all.
The script forces you to structure the communication. Facts, feelings, needs, boundaries, plan. It forces the brain to move from emotional panic right back into logical planning. It's about organizing the chaos.
It is basically a fire drill for your social life. But here is where the mission creep anxiety comes back in. The head of coaching is really worried about their own staff.
The moderators, right? The support team.
Yes. If a user comes into the customer support chat screaming, "My life is over, my boss saw me," the human instinct of that moderator is to try and fix it, to play therapist, to listen for an hour.
Which is incredibly dangerous.
Oh.
A customer support agent is not a licensed clinician. If they give bad mental health advice, the liability is massive.
Yeah.
And also it just burns out the staff.
So the head of coaching proposes a green, amber, red triage system.
This is brilliant for anyone managing a team dealing with high-stress customers. Walk us through how this works.
Green is standard. A user says, "Hey, I saw my dentist." The moderator says, "Here is the guide. Here is the protocol. Done. Neutral, efficient. You aren't getting involved in the drama."
And amber.
Amber is when the temperature rises. The user is spiraling. The moderator's job isn't to fix the feelings, but to suggest cool-down behaviors. Things like, have you muted the chat? Have you tightened your privacy settings? Maybe close the app for an hour.
Basically, stop the doom scrolling.
Exactly. And then red. Red is the danger zone. Threats, stalking, acute fear for physical safety. The moderator does not engage. They escalate immediately to trust and safety.
And there is a specific script for that handoff, right?
Yes. They are trained to say, I can't provide therapy, but I can help you decide your next safest steps.
Next safest steps. It is so focusing. It takes all the pressure off the moderator to be a savior.
It protects the staff as much as the user. That is the support behavior part in action. You are guiding them to safety, not healing their soul.
Okay, so we have the coaching team handling the panic, the soft skills.
Okay.
But that is just one piece of the puzzle. Now we have the chief operating officer, the COO, entering the chat. And their memo is all about the hard mechanics of the app. Their strategy is built entirely around protective friction.
I love this term, protective friction. If you work in tech, you know the holy grail is usually a frictionless experience. You want the user to sign up in one click, buy in one tap, match instantly. Friction is usually seen as the ultimate enemy of growth.
But the COO argues that when it comes to safety, friction is actually your friend.
Exactly. Speed leads to mistakes. If you can screenshot, share, and message instantly, you can ruin a life instantly. Protective friction means deliberately slowing the user down to force them to think.
So what does that actually look like in the product?
First, they introduced 2 new explicit community standards. And these aren't just terms of service buried in a link no one reads. These are flashing neon signs. Rule 1, no outing, no doxing, no hinting.
No hinting is interesting. That covers a lot of gray area.
It means you can't go into a public chat room and say, wow, crazy to see the VP of sales at this specific company here. Even if you don't name them, that is a bannable offense. You cannot drop breadcrumbs that lead to someone's identity.
And the second rule.
Consent before disclosure. This is the digital equivalent of don't wave unless they wave first. Even if you know someone, recognition defaults to confidentiality. You act like strangers unless you mutually agree not to be.
The COO also introduces a new incident taxonomy. Now, taxonomy sounds very corporate and boring, but looking at the memo, this actually seems really critical for how they handle safety.
It is critical. You can't fix a problem if you can't name it. Previously, they probably just lumped everything under general harassment. But the COO creates a new category entirely, recognition plus leverage.
There is that word leverage again.
It distinguishes between someone called me an ugly name and my boss saw me and now I'm scared for my job. By tagging these incidents separately, the company can track soft blackmail as a specific data point. It allows them to prioritize those tickets above everything else. If a ticket comes in marked recognition plus leverage, it jumps the queue.
And they aren't just changing the back end, they are changing the onboarding flow too. They talk about an onboarding privacy tolerance prompt.
This is a classic safety by design feature. Before you even see a single profile, the app asks you, how visible do you actually want to be? It forces the user to make a conscious choice. Do I use my real face? Do I use a pseudonym before the dopamine of swiping kicks in?
And for when things do go wrong, they're adding fast controls.
Right. A one-tap block button and a cooldown mode that essentially creates a digital bunker. You hit one button and it mutes notifications, hides your profile, and stops new matches. It is an eject button for social anxiety.
The COO links all of this to their existing single men pathway, noting that privacy breaches are a critical fail.
That brings us right back to the women are sovereign principle. If the platform becomes a place where men can leverage information against women, the platform is dead. So it is zero tolerance. You out someone, you are gone. No warnings, no second chances.
So let's recap where we are. We have the coaching team handling the panic. We have ops building the walls and the friction.
Yeah.
But there is one piece left. Communication. How do you tell your users, hey, just so you know, you might run into your boss without terrifying them?
That is the marketing director's problem. If you send an email with the subject line, warning blackmail risk, everyone deletes the app immediately.
Welcome to our community. Your life might explode. Not a great sales pitch.
Terrible sales pitch. So the marketing director's spin is calm authority. They want to reframe the narrative completely. The message isn't danger. It is sometimes 2 rooms collide here is how to stay calm.
They used a term called microcopy.
Microcopy is powerful stuff. It refers to those little snippets of text on loading screens or under text fields. It seems insignificant, but it primes the user's behavior. They suggest adding things like protect your future self, avoid uniforms, school identifiers, workplace cues.
Avoid uniforms. That is so smart. If you are a nurse, don't wear your scrubs in your profile photo. If you work for a delivery company, don't wear the branded hat.
Exactly. It puts the agency back in the user's hands. It isn't about the app hiding you. It is about you curating your own visibility. Another line they suggest is discretion is respect.
That reframes privacy entirely. It isn't I am hiding because I am ashamed. It is I am being discreet because I respect the community.
It is a massive psychological shift. They're trying to normalize the shock of recognition so that if it happens, the user doesn't panic. They think, oh, right, the app told me this might happen. I have a protocol for this.
It is like inoculation. You give them a little bit of the virus, the idea, the risk, so they are immune to the panic when the real thing actually happens.
And notice the timeline here, too. The CEO asked for a 30-day plan. The team didn't come back with a 6-month roadmap involving AI facial recognition and blockchain identity masking.
No, they came back with text, rules, scripts, friction.
Which leads us directly to the final document, the joint memo, the recommendation pack.
It is the synthesis of everything we have discussed. They boiled it all down to one sentence: ship a recognition and privacy package.
And the CEO signs off on it immediately. There's this great line in the CEO's final email where they praise the shared spine of the team.
Shared spine. I underline that too. What does that say to you?
It says that safety isn't just about soft skills or nice code. It requires backbone. It requires drawing hard lines about what is allowed and what isn't. It means standing up to users who want to be messy and saying, not here.
And they define success really clearly. Success isn't zero recognition events. That is impossible unless everyone wears a mask.
Right. Success is defined as users have a protocol so they don't spiral. Moderators don't succumb to mission creep and try to play doctor, and recognition plus leverage is handled as a safety-critical category.
But, and this is a very important nuance, they include a caveat for future-proofing.
Yes. They essentially say, look, we are doing the text-based solution now because it is fast. But if we see systematic blackmail, if this protective friction isn't enough, we will escalate to a big tech-heavy privacy project later.
They call this minimum viable protection.
Which is standard product philosophy. You don't build the Great Wall of China on day one. You build a fence. If the fence works, great. If the zombies break through, then you build the wall. You have to operate fast. You have to give people a shield they can use today.
So when we step back and look at this whole stack of documents, from the CEO's initial panic to the marketing director's microcopy, what are we really seeing here?
We are seeing the hidden machinery of social safety.
Because we usually think of online safety as encryption or passwords or firewalls.
Right. We think it is math. But this deep dive shows that true safety is often about managing human nervous systems. It is about social contracts. It is about protective friction. It is about acknowledging that technology brings different worlds together, and sometimes that crash is violent.
And it is about boundaries. The company realizing we cannot be your therapist, we can only be your guide. If they tried to process every user's trauma, the company would collapse, just like the context.
It is a lesson that applies way beyond this specific app, too. Think about any community, a church, a school board, a workplace Slack channel. When context collapses, when boundaries blur, do you have a protocol? Or do you just have panic?
That is the big question. We live in a world where absolutely everything is documented. Your LinkedIn is public. Your Strava map shows exactly where you run. Your Venmo transactions might be public. We are constantly at risk of these recognition events where our different lives crash into each other.
And usually, we rely on the platforms to protect us. We hope that Facebook keeps our private photos private. We hope that our professional Slack doesn't cross over with our personal texts. But as these emails show, even the platforms are scrambling. They are figuring out the rules in real time, just like we are.
So here is something for you to think about as you go about your day. We talked about that 90-second protocol: pause, regulate, choose. The company built that for their users because they knew panic leads to bad decisions.
It is a tool to override the lizard brain.
Exactly. So do you have your own 90-second protocol? When you see that email from your boss on a Saturday night that makes your blood run cold, or when you run into your ex at a parent-teacher conference, or when you accidentally post something to public instead of close friends?
Do you have a plan? Or are you just relying on the app or the room or the social setting to build those walls for you?
Because if these documents prove anything, it is that the walls are thinner than we think. And sometimes the only thing standing between a peaceful life and a total meltdown is taking a deep breath and knowing your next safest step.
Support behavior, not process trauma.
Words to live by. Thanks for diving deep with us today.
A pleasure. Stay safe out there.